Hey guys, thanks for checking in back over here at the channel. Well, today I am at the indoor gun range. Got with me my Remington 700 308, and I'm still working on chasing down this hand load that I've been doing for it. Now I've got these 178 grain AMAXs loaded up with 42 grains of IMR 4064. Go back and watch the episode 1, 2, and 3 of me working up these hand loads. You can see I settled on this load because it got me right up to about 2,400 feet per second, and I was getting sub MOA groups, and I was kind of happy with that. Got some decent groups, got some decent velocities, but the rifle itself is not zeroed. So what I'm gonna do today is start off by getting the rifle on target at the 100-yard range inside here. It's about 23, 25 degrees outside with some wind. So yeah, I'm gonna take advantage of this room and technology if I have it. Get this thing zeroed in at 100. We've got a 200-yard tube next door, room here indoors. I'm gonna send some down at 200 and then take it outside, ring some steel at 300 and see if my velocity, see if my drop, and see if everything is accurate. So let's get to doing some shooting. Now, if you're new to these Arken Optics, this is the SH4 Gen 2. And you can see I've got my turrets both set up at 0 here. Now I'm gonna have to be doing some adjustments here. I believe my windage was about right, but I know I'm gonna have to move around my elevation. You're gonna wanna make sure you've got a 2mm Allen key. Now these scopes come with one of these. You're gonna need to have one of these on hand, and the reason is you're gonna have to loosen up these screws around your elevation turret, as well as setting up your zero stop with this brass one. So we're gonna work going through that process, but let's get sending some rounds down. Let's get my ears on. Now you guys may be able to spot my shots up on the shot spotter software here. But let's send these first couple rounds down and see where we're at. All right, it looks like we are a little bit low and a little to the right with that first shot. Now, it's not as easy to be extremely accurate with this indoor setup with this shot spotter. Now, what I'm aiming at down there is a set of green laser lines, and it's just not the same as aiming at a real solid bullseye, but it gets the point across and it works, gets you close enough for what we're doing here. All right, shot number 2. Well, definitely not making a nice tight group, that's for sure. Let's put one more down there before we make any adjustments. All right, let's take a look at the target. Well, here they are. So it looks like, based on these 3 shots, our windage is about where we need to be. So these are 1-inch squares. So we're gonna take and I'm gonna move this up a few clicks with my elevation turret and get this thing on the bullseye. Now, if we wanna look at this mill elevation turret that I have here, if I were to take this at 100 yards and I spin this all the way to the 1, roughly we're going to be at about 3 inches. Now, based on our target here, we're only about 2 inches low, so I don't really want to go a full mill. So what I'm going to do, and we're just doing this rough right now, this is going to be about 1.5 inches. It's going to be a little bit more than 1.5 inches. So we're going to do 6 clicks up on our elevation and send a round or 2 down there, see if we get it on the bullseye. Now, this setup is not entirely the most accurate way of doing things. I've got some foam sliding around, I've got a chair I'm swiveling on, so I'm not chasing those real tight groups. Again, we're just trying to get this rifle on target here. tighten this back up outside as well. Let's see if we move these 6 clicks in our elevation, if it gets us where we want to be. All right, let's take a look at the target. Now, doing some rough math, I'm going to say that 6 clicks put us right where we needed to be. Let's shoot one more down there, see if we can get it, right in here again and confirm that 0 shot. All right, hopefully this will be our final confirmation shot, shot number 5 here. Let's take a peek at it. Now, considering how much adjustment is in each one of those clicks, this yellow ring shot was our second shot. I'm going to call that close enough for zeroing this at 100. So I'm going to call this good to go for zeroing this at 100. I'm going to show you guys real quick how to loosen up that turret, how to get that thing set up, and how to set the 0 stop. Got my 2mm here, so first thing I am going to do is loosen up each of these Allens going around this elevation turret. So I'm going to try to do this holding the camera. So I'm going to loosen these up, get these loose, and I got one more right here. So I got these loose. You can see the turret moving around now. Haven't messed with the 0 stop yet, so I'm going to get these. As you can see, this thing is spinning without clicking. You can tell my 0 stop's already been set at some point, but I'm going to get this now on the 0. Everything lined up right here. Now what I'm going to do is tighten up each of these Allen set screws, and I want to make sure I kind of do this evenly. I don't want to push this one in all the way and have pressure against the turret. So what I want to do is spin each one in a little bit until they're snug. With those 3 stainless steel set screws snugged up, the final step is doing the 0 stop. So I'm going to loosen up the 0 stop. This is the stopping mechanism right there. So the first thing I'm going to do to loosen that up is loosen up this brass one in the front here. So I'm going to loosen that up, and what this brass screw does is it pushes against that 0 stop. So now what I'm going to do is lightly spin this down in to where it's just barely touching. And I'm going to snug this locker screw right back up here. And now with everything locked up on the turret, I can move it around and it slams right into that 0 stop. So I can be shooting, spinning around, I can be going all over the place. And if I forget where I'm at, or when I get done shooting for the day, I simply put it back and zero it out. Now that's all it is to setting up one of these Arken 0 stop setups and getting your turrets all set up on an Arken EP5, EPL4, SH4, Gen 2, SH, all the Arken Optics with a 0 stop. They set up just like this. It's that easy to do. Some people struggle with that, but it's really quite simple. Now all set up down here at the 200, you'll notice this looks identical to the 100. What we're going to do is dial up our elevation. Now the Hornady ballistic app is telling me 0.62 of a mil increase. So I'm going to spin this thing up, 6 clicks, see if that sends us down there. Now I'm using an average velocity of 2,400 feet per second. Now I know my standard deviation was a little wider than I wanted, but some of my rounds were landing at the high 2300s and some in the low 2400s. So with this hand loading that I'm doing is not extremely precise. Now this is the at-home backyard hand loader guy on a budget. So I'm going to average this out to 2400. I've got that plugged into the application. I'm also using the ELDX, not the AMAX in 178 grain for the bullet selection on this application. Now, I believe the ballistic coefficient is the same on these. If you go back to the history, now I've had a couple people commenting on this. Where am I getting these AMAXs? They don't make those anymore. They've been replaced by the ELDX. I believe everything is the same except for the material of the ballistic tip. Now these AMAXs were having problems at the higher velocities and longer distances with that red tip actually melting. Well, that's what Hornady claims. So we're going to go 2,400 feet per second, 6 clicks up on the mill scope here, and see if we can land these in the bullseye. Now for these shots at the 200, I've removed that foam pad that was on the table. I felt some slipping moving around from that, so we got that thing out of here. Next thing we're going to do is do our once around on our scope. We're going to go up 6 clicks on the elevation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need to adjust our side focus, our parallax, get that all set up at 200. I already did that. And get our ears on, and let's send a couple down there and see where we're at with this. Shot 1 at 200. All right, you guys can see in the target there, the 0.6 increase from the Hornady ballistic application. The suggestion is pretty much right on. We look to be maybe, could be 1 inch low or so. Let's give it one more click and send one more down there and see how it does. All right, if you guys can see the target there, let's take a peek at it up close, but I think we're about spot on with that app. Now that last shot was as close as I'm going to get in here, aiming at that laser lines, this shot to getting a true bullseye at 200. So we've got this scope clicked up to 8 clicks over our 0. All right, off to stick some targets down at the 300 here. Nice thing about this range I'm at, I don't have to walk. Drive on down. All right, guys, got the targets all set up. Rifle is all set up. Hornady application is telling me 1.8 on the elevation and 0.6 on my windage. So I've got my scope all set up. Let's get these ears on. Let's send some down. It is cold today. I don't particularly like shooting with gloves. I've got some. We're going to try to make this quick and send 3 of them down there and see where they impact. Shooting at a max magnification of 24 on the Arken SH4 Gen 2. And the wind is gusting a bit out here. Let's see where we're at. Got my bag in the wrong spot. There we go. All right, let's send one more down there before we go take a look at it. Gives me an opportunity to warm up in the truck as well. Felt I pulled a little low on that, but we're not shooting for groups. We're just trying to see if we got this dialed at 300. Let's go take a look at it. All right, there are our 2 impacts here. Now you can see I was off by a bit with my wind call here, but elevation wise, you know, aiming point here, I'm off by a good 3 inches still. So I'm going to take that down, see if we can send a couple more down here. All right, so those impacts were about 3 inches high. So at 300 yards on this mill scope, I'm going to come back down about 3 clicks. 1, 2, 3. We're going to send these down there, and these should be pretty close to where we want them now. Maybe just a tad high still, but we should be right about where we want to go. So let's send a couple more down. Our wind call. We are also going to the left a bit much, so let's dial that back a little bit as well. I'm going to split the difference on that. And I went back 3 clicks on that too. flinch on my part there. The wind got me in the eye. One more for good measure, as the saying goes. Then I can go warm up in the truck and check the target. All right, let's go see how we did. All right, guys, here we go. Now, these 3 shots here are the last 3 shots I took, and the first 2, if we were to measure this group out and center it out, I'd say we're still about 1 inch high here. So probably bring this down 1 more click. I think my wind call is off a whole bunch because I got some berms blocking that wind. But yeah, I think 1 more click, roughly 1 inch, is going to get us down. I expected this to be a little bit high still. Well, all right, guys, there you have it. I've got the target back with me here. Now, taking a peek at that screw, I'll get that all measured up, but you know, the focus of this content was this ammunition loading, and but we got a little bit of work in with the scope here. Now, I've toned this back 1 click. I think we were still 1 inch high down there. I'm going to monkey around and input those different velocities in and kind of move things around in the Hornady application. But all in all, this is the process of working through a hand load. You want to load this stuff, you want to use your technology, and you want to get out and confirm it. So, hey, thanks for checking back in, and hey, get on out there and keep on shooting.